Major funding for A Taste of Louisiana with John Folse and Company is made possible in part by Zatarain's authentic New Orleans-style dinner mixes. Zatarain's, a good way to jazz up dinner and a real New Orleans original since 1889.
Louisiana. She's the exception and never the rule. She's a mystery that asks not to be solved, but simply to be experienced. Louisiana, where you can come as you are and leave different. Additional funding is provided by the Friends of Louisiana Public Broadcasting and the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
The first footprints to appear in the red soil of these beautiful hills in North Louisiana were those of the Caddo Indians. They cherished this land. They raised their families here, fished in Little Choudrant Creek, and hunted game in these woods. Here in the late 1700s, French-Canadian trappers arrived searching for fur and then moved on. In the mid-1800s, the Confederate Army came through and indicated that Melody Meadows Ranch was located here. A general wrote that the owners of the property, the Brooks family, were true Southerners, and 400 bushels of Confederate corn were available for the cause. During Reconstruction, the railroad laid tracks across this land and a new town emerged. They named it Choudrant because of the high ridge surrounding it, giving the appearance of a water bowl. Since those original Native Americans walked here, many have come and gone. Today, a beautiful two-story log home owned by Tony and Gina Clark stands sentinel over the property. In this unique, quiet, and serene place, deer, turkey, and other native wildlife become the backdrop for breakfast and a hot cup of coffee on the raised deck. I can't help but think how few places exist today that are untouched by time. A place where one can still enjoy the sights and sounds of nature just as those early visitors did so many years ago. I'm Chef John Folse. Welcome to the rolling hills of north central Louisiana. Welcome to Choudrant and to the new Melody Meadows. Imagine y'all for a moment waking up to this picturesque view of 167 acres here in North Louisiana. Nestled on a high bluff overlooking acres of lush green meadows, this bed and breakfast is truly one of the most unique in the South. The impeccably landscaped grounds with its two-story log home make this lodge the perfect place for families, for hunters, and yes, even honeymooners. The 1,400-square-foot two-bedroom getaway awaits those who desire a peaceful and private overnight experience. The large living area includes a huge stone fireplace, an open kitchen, and entertaining area. The bedrooms are decorated with handmade furnishings by Dale Clark, a local furniture maker from Columbia, Louisiana. This rustic willow collection is especially of Dale's company, which, by the way, is named Woodworks Unique. Gina and Tony Clark have tastefully decorated the lodge in a country theme with family items, antique shop bargains, and specialty pieces collected over the years. This rustic setting is the perfect weekend getaway to serenity in nature. What a great place to call home, y'all, for a few days. So if ever you want to experience a sunrise on the meadow, come to a place that I myself would love to call home. Imagine y'all owning a bed and breakfast, a piece of property that dates back to the time when the first footsteps marched across this land, to the fur trappers, to the Confederacy as they came across Louisiana. And today, it's a bed and breakfast where you and I can spend the night. And in 1996, Tony and Gina Clark purchased the property from Jim Ball, and she's going to tell us all about the steps that took place to make that purchase happen. And it is really an interesting story. It's in the little town of Choudrant, Louisiana, which is about 5 miles outside of Ruston in the northern part of the state. A very interesting part of Louisiana with an interesting food culture as well. So I want to talk about a couple of the dishes that I discovered there, and we're even going to cook a dish with Gina just a little bit later. But one of the first dishes I want to share with you is a crawfish bisque. And I want you to take a look in this bowl right here, because when I say crawfish bisque to Louisianians, normally we're talking about a rich roux-based crawfish stew that is filled with the heads of the crawfish stuffed with the ground meat of the tails and highly seasoned with onion, celery, bell pepper, garlic, all of those nice flavors. This comes from the Cajun side of Louisiana, the swamp floor pantry, so to speak, and this is typical of the foods of New Orleans. But in North Louisiana, we're looking at a lighter side of the cuisine, and when we talk about crawfish bisque there, we're talking about a cream-based, stock-based soup. So take a look at my bowl here, and I want to show you just some of the ingredients. First of all, this is the White River and swamp crawfish. One's a little darker than the other one. The White River is a little larger, and the swamp crawfish is smaller, a little darker, but has an intense flavor. And today in Louisiana, we get our crawfish already processed and packaged, of course, in these nice little cellophane bags. And notice the orange color in here. This tells us that there's a lot of natural fat, and that's the flavor of the crawfish. Don't ever buy crawfish where you don't see that nice, rich, orange color in the bags. And most people think that we've been eating crawfish in Louisiana since the beginning of time. No, not really. We started about right after the Depression, when we could go out and get some of these things already packaged for us. Then we started to see them appear in a lot of different recipes. Up to that point, you had to get a net, you had to go out into the swamp, you had to fish a couple pounds, and it was a little difficult to actually get the crawfish. So let me show you how to make this nice rich soup. In my cast iron pot here, I'm going to start off by putting a little buttery flavored oil, and of course you can use a vegetable oil. Buttery flavored oil is just a vegetable oil that is flavored with butter, and you can buy it in most of the grocery stores in a pourable oil. And I'm going to begin by sauteing all of the seasonings of Louisiana, my onion, celery, bell pepper, because even though this is a classical dish out of North Louisiana, we still use the trinity of seasonings, all of those wonderful seasonings that we think about when we think about cooking in Louisiana. Onions, celery, bell pepper, and of course garlic as well. And the word bisque, crawfish bisque, is actually used to describe any stock, any shellfish stock that is thickened with a roux, just a little white roux, and finished with cream. So when you hear bisque classically, that's what it is. So y'all, here we have all of my nice seasonings. Now I'm going to throw into it some chopped crawfish tails. Why chopped crawfish tails? Well, I'll tell you. We're going to sacrifice these. We're going to sacrifice them to flavor in the bottom of the pot. So we're going to kind of stir that around just a little bit. And now that that's sauteing, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit red tomato sauce, bright red Creole tomato sauce here, because that gives the bisque a nice, beautiful red color. And then I'm going to sprinkle into it a little flour, because here's my roux. I told you I needed a little roux. And that'll pick up all of that butter. And once this is stirred into it, the roux will thicken the soup to a nice consistency. And then y'all take a look at my crawfish stock. I have a little crab in here. I have crawfish shells, all those nice things to give me a really rich flavor. So I'm going to put this crawfish stock right down into the bisque to create my soup, and this is where the name comes from. You're looking at it happening here right now. So once this is done, you can season it, y'all. Salt, pepper, herbs of all different kinds. I'm going to whip this around for just a second, whisk this in like this, and notice the color, how pretty that is. And then I can come back and add a little heavy whipping cream, which is very important in a finished bisque. So I'm going to add that right to it. And look how nice and light that's going to become. And then, as I say, season it with your favorite spices and let it simmer for about 30 minutes. And then, y'all, right at the end, you want to cut in some of these really nice crawfish tails. In fact, I'm going to cut some in right here and just pour it right into the soup and get some of that nice flavor down in there. And I'm going to save some of this for when the soup is done, too. So, y'all, this is the finished soup. Let me show you what it looks like in the tureen when it's all done. Take a look at that. Right down into the tureen. Let me pull this up for you. Look how pretty that is. Crawfish bisque finished with the cream, unlike the roux-based soup of South Louisiana's Cajun country. Now, another great dish that I found at Melody Meadows was a banana pound cake. In fact, a banana pound cake that actually came from Gina's mother. This is a really nice dish. And I start off in my bowl with about a block or two of butter. Of course, you can put shortening or butter. I'm going to whip this around just a little bit here. So let me get this thing moving. And you want to kind of cream all of this together nicely. And then I'm going to add a little bit sugar, about a half a cup of sugar, and just kind of cream that together. Always mix your sugar and shortening together first to blend them nicely. And then, y'all, the eggs. 4 eggs. And you can add them one at a time, 1 or 2 at a time, mix them together like this. And once they're all in, then you can slowly add your flour. Don't put your milk in first. You're going to have a mess on your hands if you do that. So go ahead and cream this nicely with the eggs. I'm going to add a little vanilla, a little touch of banana liqueur, just to give it, this is a banana pound cake, y'all. And then I'm going to sprinkle in that flour just a little bit at a time until it's well blended. And again, I have about a cup and a half of flour here. So just kind of blend it into a nice batter, just like this. And you're going to have, look how nice and smooth this is. Really a nice cake. Now, once this is done, once it's all blended well together, you want to add your milk because you have to have a batter that's pourable. So I'm going to put in about 3/4 of a cup of milk to it, but get it nice and blended. Get the lumps out, and it's going to have that great banana flavor because of the banana liqueur. Put that milk in there and just kind of blend that around a little bit. And I wish you could smell this, y'all. The banana is just filling up my kitchen right here, permeating the kitchen, this nice banana flavor. So once this is all mixed together, it's simple as that. You just move it out of the way because I like to put this in a bundt pan. You can also cook it in a loaf pan, but take a look at this nice cast iron bundt pan right here. I would grease it first, spray it with a little vegetable spray, and then pour my batter right down into it. And you want to bake your pound cake at about 350 degrees. This pound cake will take about 1 hour and 10 minutes, but you want to kind of stick a little skewer down into it, make sure that skewer comes out nice and clean, and then you know your pound cake is ready. One of the worst things is a dry pound cake, so you want to make sure that the shortening is well mixed in with the eggs and the sugar, and that's going to keep that pound cake nice and moist. Take a look at this one. It's all done. I've taken it out of the oven. It was cooked in a bundt pan. I'm going to put a little glaze right on top of it, just like that. Y'all look how nice that is. This is a little sugar and just a little touch, a little confection of sugar, a little milk. I know what you want to do. You want to grab that thing right now. Well, y'all, I told you that Gina was going to share with us her recipe for Paw Paws shrimp salad, and this shrimp came from her father, and he told her how to make it, and she was good enough to share that recipe with me, and I with you. So let's take a look at it. Gina, I don't even want to think about how many pounds of that Paw Paw shrimp dip I could eat. Whose Paw Paw is that dish named after?
Paw Paw is my father, and He likes to toy around in the kitchen with Cajun recipes, and this is just one that he's come up with.
Well, I tell you what, that's a great trait of most Cajuns. Everybody going into the kitchen and playing around with the foods a little bit. But you say Cajun, you're in North Louisiana.
Well, I'm originally from Salford, Louisiana, so down there where all the good seafood
now
is.
I know why a shrimp dip in North Louisiana. I was thinking, now where does shrimp come from around Ruston? Now I know. So what do you have in the bowl here? Let's start cranking this recipe out.
We've got an 8-ounce block of cream cheese and about a 3/4 stick of butter, and you just mash it together.
And you just kind of blend them together until they're nice and done. They're nice and smooth, huh?
Right.
Okay, what else goes into it at this point?
About a 1/4 cup of white onions.
Okay, let me go ahead and sprinkle that in for you. 1/4 cup of white onions, about that much, okay. And what's next?
Probably about the same on the green onions, and we want to save some green onions for the top.
To garnish with, okay, and just keep mashing,
Sure.
get that nice and soft there. Let me ask you a question while you're doing all the work.
Okay.
See, how did y'all come across this beautiful piece of property?
Well, this property's been here since the 80s when we were at Tech, and my husband actually worked a few parties out here when he was at Tech. So we were looking for a place to have a company party a few years back, and we came out here looking at it, and the next thing you know, we had bought it.
Fate had it. You owned the property. I'll come out to have a party, and then you owned it. Okay, good. So all of the seasonings in there, and then what do we have? I have to put a little bit of this nice parsley.
Right.
And I guess you could put a little bit of. There's no amount. I guess you could put a little bit of, a little bit more, a little bit less. Doesn't really matter on those. Okay, what next?
Then we can add our shrimp in.
Okay, now the shrimp are chopped, but I see here that that we're using. What size do you have here?
I think those are about 30-count shrimp.
Yeah, these are really beautiful too. Do you just poach them or boil them, or do you season them first?
They are boiled in shrimp and crab liquid seasoning.
Oh, that nice spicy liquid from New Orleans.
That's
huh?
right.
So you want to put about, what, about half of this chopped shrimp in there?
About half. The more, the better.
The more, the better, that's for sure. Okay, great. We're going to just kind of mix all of that around. And I see you have all kind of great seasonings here, so I guess we have to put a little bit of all of that in?
Yes.
And how much do you put?
Well, we like ours pretty highly seasoned.
Okay, well, I'll just put to taste, huh?
To taste.
Okay, a little Worcestershire sauce down in there. And then let me see, I have a little garlic salt, and I'll put that in. And hot sauce, got to spice it up. And I know you like a lot of hot sauce if you're from Sulphur. Okay, a lot of that in. And then some Creole seasoning, huh? Nice Creole seasoning, and blend that around. Now, you know, I walked out of this room this morning, I guess about 6:30 or so, with a hot cup of coffee onto that deck. And as I was looking out, I thought to myself, every game, every species imaginable must be walking out here during the season. Do you see a lot of game out there?
We do. When we were doing renovations on the building, we had a tripod set up in the courtyard, and every once in a while I'd see the construction workers over there looking at the deer out in the pasture through the tripod.
Instead of working, they were watching the game, huh?
Right.
Now, you know, this is a pretty unique property here. Not only a beautiful B&B, but also at the same time a gorgeous landscape. Who's your customer here?
Well, we have a variety of people who stay with us. They vary from a honeymoon couple who's had a wedding reception in our reception hall to a businessman out of Dallas that maybe going to Monroe on business and wanting to get
away.
Right.
So in other words, you're more than just a place to sleep over. You're actually a full service facility.
Full service.
Well, it's really beautiful. I spent the night here, and I tell you, there's nothing like waking up on these acres. Okay, so you have all of that mixed. Now, what's the next thing we would do?
The next thing, we like to heat ours up.
Just microwave it or in the oven?
Just microwave it for a minute, and then we just put some fresh green onions on the top.
And garnish it up. Now, I noticed these beautiful bowls here. This is a very unique pattern. Where does this come from?
I have a friend in Ruston that's a potter, and his name is Kent Follette, and he has a really neat shop. I think you need to stop in and see what he has for sale and what kind of pottery he makes.
Well, I'm going to definitely stop there. So I'll get his address before I leave.
Well, great.
So it goes into the microwave. It's heated up for a minute, and this is what it looks like when it's done. You just put it in one of these nice bowls and garnish it with a little shrimp as you've done, and then you would serve it with these toast points or crackers, right?
Right.
Well, I tell you what, Gina, you make sure you tell Papa thanks for that recipe.
I will.
Thank you so much. Y'all, what a fantastic shrimp dish. And I like mine spicy too. And how much can I eat? Probably about my weight. It is a great dish, and you definitely want to try to make that at home. Get the recipe and make it at home, definitely. Now, what other dishes did I find up in Choudrant, Louisiana? Well, let's take a look right here. The first thing is my little muffins, my zucchini muffins, y'all. These are just a nice regular muffin batter. Of course, we chop vegetables into it, zucchini in this particular case, and a lot of muffins are made in Louisiana using different types of squash, even eggplant beignets. So your favorite muffin batter, just go ahead and slice some zucchini into it. Bake it about 350 for about 30 minutes, and this is what you have. And look at these double-cut pork chops, y'all. These have been marinated overnight in a little brown sugar brine and then put on the grill for about 12 minutes on each side, and a nice little natural brown gravy. These things are absolutely incredible. I know y'all notice all of the gorgeous pottery that I use on the show each week. Well, I get a lot of this from Kent Follette, who has a studio right next to Melody Meadows. Let's go and visit him. So Kent, now describe this piece to me. Exactly what are we making?
Oh, what we're making? Well, my helper and I today, John, we're going to make us a sweet tea pitcher. A hot day like this, you know, you might want a nice big old tall glass of sweet tea.
Well, I tell you, I think it's got the right shape. I think it's looking pretty good. I could put tea in that thing, you know?
Yeah, I believe you could, but, you know, we're going to have to do a few more things. We're going to get us a handle on there, and we'll put a spout on it before we're all done, and I want a little more volume.
Well, you know, I'm trying to figure out exactly how I got here now. I got off of I-20, I guess it was, off of the interstate. Right. And I saw, what, Farmerville, I saw Ruston, I saw Choudrant, and after a couple of hills, I ended up here. Where in the heck are we?
We are in north central Louisiana. We're right outside of Ruston. As a matter of fact, you're in Pea Ridge, Louisiana, if you want to put a name on it. And it's a kind of a local name. We're really not on a map, but we're just too small for that. But you're outside of Ruston.
Outside of Ruston, Louisiana. You know, when I think of pottery, I kind of think back to the days of like Newcomb pottery out of New Orleans, I guess right at the turn of the century, or that German salt glazed pottery. I think of things that either cost a lot of money or maybe come out of some mass-produced shop of Taiwan, but that's not really what pottery is all about.
Well, you know, today with the contemporary stoneware potters, which I'm one myself, we make functional pottery for people to use in their kitchens, in their homes. There are a lot of art potters around right now. The renaissance of the studio art potter, much like the Newcomb pottery, comes from people wanting something of beauty in their homes and in their lives.
Well, what caused the revival, though? What caused the new excitement in pottery?
Well, after World War II, a few of those boys came back from the war and went to art schools in Alfred's, New York, at the university, and the renaissance of the contemporary crafts movement started. And I'm a product of that. My teacher went to school there, and he taught me how to make pots. And I studied down at Newcomb Pottery for a while, and I ended up back here after teaching college. And I'm here just making small vessels that people can use in their everyday lives.
Now, how many people like you are in business in pottery in Louisiana today?
Well, right now we have probably between 65 and 100 contemporary crafts potters working in Louisiana. And there's one in just about every community. Yeah. If you look around, there's some old boy out there with a ponytail and blue jeans and in a shed somewhere turning some pottery.
Well, you know, I first discovered your shop here in the wilderness outside of Ruston, and a perfect place, I should say, to make pottery as well, about 10 years ago. And here I am back again because I love what you do. I think your styles are just so recognizable, and as you know, I'm just fascinated by your work.
Right.
And I thank you so much for sharing it with us here today.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Now, you finished my sweet tea pitcher.
I'm going to make you the sweet tea pitcher right here. We're going to do this.
Well, I appreciate it.
We're going to give it a little squeeze right here. And then we're going to make a great big old pouring spout on this. Let's get to the right side of this. Do that. Give it that. And then, you know,
I could do that. I could do that.
Well, I could probably come down there and cook in your restaurant one Saturday night if you don't mind. And we're going to just pass that to you. Now, don't bend it.
Oh, so that's all to it. I could fill it up with tea, right?
No, just like baking a cake. This is part one.
I'll put it in the oven.
We'll have to put it in the oven for a while.
He does such gorgeous work, and so do I. Y'all, look at my sweet tea pitcher that I made. He told me to be careful as I brought it over to the oven, and that's exactly what I did. But some kind of way or other it collapsed. But what a masterpiece. Look, I have two pouring spouts now, one on each side. He does gorgeous work up there in the hills of Choudrant, Louisiana, Kent Follette. So if you're in that area around Melody Meadows, make sure you stop and spend the night and go over and see his studio. Until next time, y'all, thanks for stopping by as we continue to visit the bed and breakfasts of the Bayou State and continue to cook up more of these great Taste of Louisiana. I'm going to work a little bit more on my pottery. I think I need to work on it.
To learn more about A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse and Company, visit PBS online at the internet address on your screen. Hot beignets and warm boudoirs by Chef John Folse is available for $29.95. This companion book to the series features over 150 recipes. To order, call 1-800-973-7246 or write to the address on your screen.
Major funding for A Taste of Louisiana with John Folse and Company is made possible in part by Zatarain's authentic New Orleans-style dinner mixes. Zatarain's, a good way to jazz up dinner and a real New Orleans original since 1889.
Louisiana. She's the exception and never the rule. She's a mystery that asks not to be solved, but simply to be experienced. Louisiana, where you can come as you are and leave different. Additional funding is provided by the Friends of Louisiana Public Broadcasting and the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting.